Hi guys, I'm back again with some more stories for you today. Let's go to the first one, about OP's parents, who demand OP adopts her late sister's child and are furious when OP refuses to do so. But we can't judge OP as she has a very valid reason to do so. Listen to the story to find out, and of course to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, guys, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. So I, 27 female, was estranged from my deceased sister for 5 years after she had an affair with my fiancé that not only I found out about, but resulted in a pregnancy. I cut the two of them out of my life and declared that they were dead to me. They had a child who is now 4, but maybe close to 5 now, I'm not sure. I've never met the child. I never wanted to meet the child or be in their life. My parents knew their grandchild and supported the child while my sister and ex were alive. They were on and off after I left him. I heard from friends that their breakups were quite explosive. When they died in a car accident recently, people were shocked, but also kind of not, because a lot of people assumed they were arguing and didn't focus on the road. My parents tried to take them, but they were denied on the grounds of health and mobility. The child's paternal relatives did not want to take the child. No surprises there though, and so my parents turned to me. I'm now engaged again, to Luke, and we bought our forever home last year. We're stable and happy, and my parents believe we should take their grandchild. I told them I would not be a good fit to raise the child, and I was sorry, but that was the end of the discussion as far as I'm concerned. Luke told them he was with me on that. My parents went behind my back to try to talk him into it, but he told me and I told them to stop. They begged me again to reconsider and said imagine how nice it would be to know my nibbling, to get to be there, to have a child who is part of our family kept in our family, and raised lovingly around people who want the best for them. I told them that is not a job for me and to let it go. A few days went by and I thought they might have let it drop. Then they call and tell me to think about how good it will look, for me, the betrayed sister and ex-fiancé, to have enough love and compassion to raise the child that was conceived out of said betrayal and love them and be the best mom to that child who could exist. They said people would think I'm a saint and would always think of me as an incredible person. I told them I am no saint. I do not want to be a saint. I don't need to be seen as some incredible, amazing person, and I am not going to raise their grandchild just to look good to other people, and they need to stop asking me. They told me I was heartless and asked how I could not care at all about a child who is my own flesh and blood, who has been tossed around the system in just a few weeks. Because, according to them, the child has been in 4 homes already. They said I should not be able to turn my back on family like this, and I should have more compassion for them, who were told by CPS they will not be allowed to raise their grandchild. Am I the a-hole? I don't think OP is in the wrong here. It's sad for the child. But would OP even be able to raise the child without being constantly reminded of the betrayal and ultimately take that out on the child? OP has done nothing wrong. OP knows it won't be a good fit. And while it's a shame they aren't in a position to raise the child, I think OP is making the correct decision. Raising a child is not about looking good. I think OP's parents got it all wrong there. They are also trying to manipulate OP into doing something, which is a huge responsibility. Let's see if the community has the same opinion as me on the matter. Serena Firefly says, not the a-hole. As sad as it is, having the child at home will remind you of your ex and sister's betrayal, plus their death. I would be insulted by the fact that they think you should do it to look good. Falcon Yeager says, not the a-hole. I can't imagine a betrayed ex to be a good stepmother for an orphan child, especially when the person went no contact with family of that betrayal. Sounds more like the ideal setup for an evil stepmother. You Say What Now says, not the a-hole, and oh my god that they even suggested what others might think as a possible motivation. I understand their request. I understand that they wish they could keep him in the family, but they need to respect your answer. Given the circumstances of your sister and your fiancé betraying you, it's not at all unreasonable that you do not wish to become parents to their son. You are not obliged to, even if others thought you ought. I know some will mention that the kid is innocent, and yes, he is, but you are also entitled to protect your mental well-being by choosing not to become his parent. I have 2 sons with my ex-husband. 2.5 years ago, he left me for another woman who was pregnant with his child. Once the divorce was finalized, he lost visitation rights to our children because of an unsuitable home environment, and he refused supervised visitation. My boys never met their half-sibling because of this. Until my ex passed away and his wife dropped off the face of the earth, leaving the child with my ex's parents. I then agreed to facilitate a relationship. The grandparents, however, were not happy with this and wanted me to take in this child and raise them because I am the mother of their siblings and the child's mother is likely never to come back. They say occasional visits are not good enough. They also say that I could provide a better family structure than they could because they would never grow up doubting they were loved by a parent. The truth is, I could not bring myself to be active in the child's life. It's not the child's fault my ex had an affair, but I would never be able to give them the love I give my boys because they are mixed up in a mess my ex created. And the truth is, I don't want to be this child's mother or love them. I want as much of a clean break from my ex as I can get, while still allowing my boys a relationship with their paternal family. The grandparents are now very unhappy with me and try to change my mind, and a few close friends who were supporting me have become divided. One of my oldest friends told me she believes I am doing the wrong thing, refusing. She told me my children and this child would be better off if I just embraced the child and learned to love them. She believes it could heal me too. Another very, very close friend believes I am doing the very best thing because if I feel this way, regardless whether it's right or wrong, it would not be good for the child. Am I the a-hole? I think OP's ex-in-law's reasoning here, that the child would never grow up doubting they were loved by a parent, makes no sense. Kids are smart, and they pick up on your feelings. OP doesn't love this child now, and there's no guarantee that she ever will. Plus, what if the mother does come back? OP has no legal rights to this child. None of this mess is of OP's making, and it's not her job to pick up the pieces. Grandparents can't put this on her. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Grenadine Bombardier says, "Not the a-hole. Jesus, I'm sorry for you. You're right that the child is not your responsibility, and I think you're also right in your decision. If you know you can't give them what they need, then it is probably for the best that you don't take them in." Consistent Leopard 71 says, "Not the a-hole. While it is unfortunate that this child lost their father and that their mother ran off, this child is not your responsibility. You should never take in a child whom you do not want. Your former in-laws and your friend who thinks taking in your husband's affair baby would heal you are the a-hole. Take care of your children and stand your ground. Good luck." Purple.0 says, "Not the a-hole. This child just simply is not your responsibility. There are millions of children who need help, but your priority is and should be the children that you actively made." One night, after quite a few drinks at a nightclub, I met a girl who had mutual friends, though I'd never heard of her before, and ended up taking her back to my place. Was living with my mom at the time, for a one-night stand. Unprotected. Stupid, I know, but at the time I was drunk. The next morning I made up some excuse for her to leave and intended on never seeing her again. A few months go by, and I've now rekindled a previous love. We're living together and things are going great. Then we find out my partner is pregnant, and we're ecstatic, planning for the future. Next thing you know, I get a message from an unknown number, and it's that girl I had a one-night stand with saying we need to talk. First thing I did was let my partner know what was going on. We talked things through before I messaged the girl back, and letting her know I was in a happy relationship, and I didn't want her to go through with the pregnancy, and would prefer she got an A, as politely as possible. She was unsure of what she was going to do, but assured me if she was going to go through with it, I wouldn't have to be involved, and it would be her child alone, and wouldn't expect any form of involvement or support from me. I agreed, and that was the last I've spoken to her, even to this day. We live in a very secular country, so early A isn't nearly as frowned upon as other countries. Weeks go by, and my girlfriend and I are attending a scan, and everything seems fine. We're advised the heart rate was low, and asked to come back in 2 weeks for a follow-up. When we returned for the follow-up, the baby was gone. This was extremely emotional and traumatic for the both of us, especially my partner, and she dealt with a great deal of being down following. Months go by, and we've moved countries to start a new life together. Within a month of arriving, I find out the one-nighter had turned up at my mother's to introduce a 1-month-old child. My mother is happy and excited. My girlfriend is heartbroken, feeling like she failed in providing that grandchild. I say to my mother, "Look, I'm in a whole other country. I have no interest in being involved in this child's life. I'm not even listed on the birth certificate. But if you want to be involved in this child's life, so be it. I just ask you respect my partner and I's wishes by keeping it to yourself." She agreed initially, but over time things changed. Suddenly, my mother's bringing the child to family gatherings, plastering photos and statuses all over Facebook. I can't help but feel like it's a huge kick in the teeth to my partner's feelings and my wishes. So, am I the a-hole for hoping she'd keep it to herself? This isn't about OP's girlfriend. This is about a child who has a right to know who his father is. This is about a child who has done nothing wrong and isn't going to be hidden away because its existence inconveniences OP. I understand OP and his girlfriend are grieving. However, OP's mother now has a grandchild. She can't be expected to pretend it doesn't exist. She's happy and involving him or her in family stuff and photos, as a grandmother should. Is the kid supposed to be kept secret all its life because OP screwed up? No, it has every right to know the family and be loved. OP's mom has every right to love the grandchild. Let's hear the community's opinion. 00 Lisa 00 says, "Yeah, you're the a-hole. No matter how much you want to forget it happened, that is your child, and it is her grandchild. Just because you don't like it, your mom has every right to acknowledge and love this child. The child is not some shameful secret. It is a human being." Shocksford says, "You're the a-hole. Wow, your mother is bringing her grandchild, your child, to family events. She's totally reasonable to do this. You should step up and be a father." I'm not blonde, I promise says, "Not the a-hole. Quite frankly, I think the mother of the child is the a-hole for putting you and your family in that position. She said she was okay with you not being involved in having the child herself. You left her with the final decision, and she made it, by having the child. She should never have introduced that child to your family. She knew your position. If a woman is allowed to have an a male should be entitled to have an emotional A from the child. Whatever the girl's motivations were, she agreed to your terms, and then went against your wishes. Therefore, kind of an a-hole." My son was married for a few years to his wife Sierra. Sierra and him divorced because he found out one of his children wasn't his, and she had an affair, which is reasonable. But I spent 4 years believing in loving and treating this child as my grandchild. So after the divorce, I kept in contact with her and him. Every year on her son's birthday, I still buy him gifts, and I visit all 3 of my grandchildren often, even if they are at her house. Sierra's son's birthday just passed, and I had gotten him a few toys. My son called me and asked what I was doing, and I told him I had just dropped off the gifts. He was outraged and said I needed to stop doing that, and he was not my grandchild. I said I wouldn't because even though Sierra did horrible things, it wasn't the child's fault. He just ranted and said that it didn't matter and that I was taking her side and betraying him by continuing this. I understand what Sierra did was the worst, and I validate my son's feelings. But I have 2 biological grandchildren that live with her, and a child I love like my grandson. It's not for Sierra, but for the child. Am I the a-hole? Cocoa Sneeze says, "Not the a-hole. Your son is justifiably hurt. He was betrayed the worst possible way. But like you said, the child has done nothing wrong, and it would be beyond cruel to just ignore him while you're being an active grandparent to the 2 other children. I'd sit down with your son and explain it calmly. How much harm cutting contact with that child would cause to him, and how you actually love him." KTD in Norland says, "The child is an innocent, and you are a good person who is treating the child nicely and lovingly. Life is long, and the good you do will result in the grandson becoming a good person. Your son could learn a valuable lesson from you. However, he's not ready for that." Wielder of Aphorisms says, "Sorry, but everyone sucks here. I get you're attached and trying to do right, but it's also a slap in your son's face. There's no way he can separate the horrible betrayal by his ex-wife, and you're his mother. Imagine your son's feelings. Are you going to be in this child's life forever as the grandparent? Are you going to choose to ignore your son's pain? There is no good option, but your choices will have a long-lasting impact. You hid this from him. Now he's again feeling betrayed." I, 48 female, have a younger brother called Alex, 44 male. I'm the second oldest. I have an older sister, Marina, 50 female, and a younger sister, Helen, 46 female. Around 5 years ago, Alex's ex-wife, Natalie, 47 female, cheated on him and they split up. It was a very sad situation, as Alex adored his wife, but she wanted someone who was present more, as he was a heart surgeon and his job is demanding. Around this time, Alex started to struggle with mental health problems and went down a dark path for about a year. He hired a housekeeper, Sarah, 18 female at the time, 23 female now, who he fired after only 3 months. Back then, he claimed it was because he didn't want to be lazy and he wanted to take care of his own cleaning, cooking. But we recently found out that it was because he got her pregnant, but he didn't believe the child was his. He refused to do a paternity test and essentially left that poor young girl to fend for herself. His excuse was that she was a recovering addict, and he was ashamed that he had gotten involved with her. But I don't understand why he would have hired a recovering addict in the first place if that was going to be such a big deal with him. Somehow, he recently got back in contact with her and found out about his 4-year-old son. He panicked about it and told the family. He said that he was going to send child support and see his son weekly, but that he wasn't going to introduce the boy to his 14-year-old twin daughters with Natalie, and that the boy wasn't going to be part of our family holidays. He introduced Sarah to our family, and although she seems fine now, she struggled a lot when he abandoned her, as she had no friends or family to support her. Her situation reminded me of how we grew up when our father abandoned our family, and it made me sick to know my brother had done the same. I told him that it was wrong for him to treat his son like a dirty secret, just because he's embarrassed about how he behaved. I host all family holidays and gatherings because no one else is organized enough, and I said that I wanted to see my nephew there, or I would stop hosting because that child deserves to know where he came from. My mother and older sister agree with me, but Helen and Alex are calling me the a-hole for trying to dictate how he handles his life. Am I the a-hole? Jacked Lil Jill says, "Don't stop hosting family gatherings. Tell Alex he isn't allowed to come until he realizes what family means and acts like that boy is his family. Make sure the mom knows her son is invited every time. I honestly would start inviting Sarah and your nephew. Duck your brother. That woman deserves and needs support." Big Stink Eyes says, "Not the a-hole. Dude knocked up a teenager that was half his age and abandoned her and his child. Now he wants to treat his child like an outsider? I'm glad you are calling him out and encouraging your nephew to be a part of the family." Squeaky Wheel 1 says, "Your brother, no offense, but his lack of responsibility for his actions is awful. A woman half his age is being a better parent than a heart surgeon. Not the a-hole, and your nephew deserves better than what your brother is doing."